Well, hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Yay. I'm your host, James Parker. Happy Wednesday. Well, the big news today is this Golden Dome talk. Now, you haven't heard a whole lot of Golden Dome programming throughout your entire life, but it's something that kind of echoes like old Ronald Reagan setting up what they call it, the Star Wars Strategic STI, whatever that stood for. So let's talk about this defense shield, because do we need to be defended against missiles? Absolutely. Should we take money from people in the form of taxation and spend that on defense? Absolutely. It's one of the few constitutional things the government does. But do we need this one? Do we need it now? Do we need it for this price? Because I am all for defense, but there is definitely such thing as spending too much money on defense, or money spent on defense that's not really worth it or needed. Because I don't see a whole lot of people asking, how effective is it? Now, we don't know because it hasn't been built yet. But don't we already have a missile defense system, and why is that one not good enough anymore? Don't we already have a system that shoots down any incoming missiles? Do we really need to spread it and make it bigger or make it higher or whatever we're doing with it? How bad do we need it? And then there's some other sort of diplomatic questions, which I think are secondary to those initial questions, like what do our allies think about it? What do neutral countries think about it? What do our adversaries think about it? I mean, these are considerations, but they're all way secondary to what does the system do? How effective is it? How bad do we need it? And what is the financial cost? You know, we've spent over $1 trillion developing this fighter jet that we've never really used in a combat scenario. And the scary part is we may never use it in a combat scenario. It's just money that if we hadn't spent any of it, we wouldn't have known any difference in our defense. But we definitely would have noticed when $1 trillion isn't sucked out of your economy and put in the front pocket of defense contractors. And so one of the things you can't do is go ask Lockheed Martin if we should have a $175 billion missile defense shield. Yes, this is the people that would build it. Don't go ask them. Saw Fox News do that today. I'm like, what do you think they're going to say? Yeah, no, please, keep your $175 billion. We're doing just fine over here. But is this something where we're going to be so focused on missiles, but the next war is going to be fought with drones, and we don't have an adequate system for that? Not all defense spending is good, and I think everyone can agree for that. My mind is open to being changed. I need to hear some people who know more than I do about this talk about it and answer some of the questions, though. How do we really need this? What do we do now if someone shoots a missile at us? Does it just hit Omaha or whatever? We know a Chinese spy balloon can float over at any time. That doesn't make me feel better. But don't we already have a missile defense system? Why isn't that good enough? Someone explain that to me. I want to hear that granular level of discussion before I make my final decision. Because right now, $175 billion, we don't have that. We still have an almost $2 trillion annual deficit. And I thought the whole point of ending these forever wars, of getting out of Afghanistan and wrapping things up in Iraq and getting Ukraine to settle down and Israel, Gaza to settle down, so we don't have to spend that money anymore. It's not good to stop spending that money so we can go spend it elsewhere. We need to not spend it. We need to leave it in the hands of the people and not filter it through D.C. It's a terrible pattern that keeps happening over and over. One piggy bank for the defense contractor shuts down, and another one opens up. Well, we got to pull out of Afghanistan. That was a good gravy train we had going for 20 years, and almost immediately we had a flare up in Ukraine. Oh, good. So for the next 3 years, we spent about, $175 billion on Ukraine defense? And what do we want to spend on this missile defense now that Ukraine's wrapping up? $175 billion? That's an odd coincidence. So I am open to being talked into this, but as it stands right now, I do not like the sound of the Golden Dome. I haven't had anyone explain what was wrong with the previous one. Here's I have a quick statement from Donald Trump yesterday on the Golden Dome, and I'd like to hear more, really.
I promised the American people that I would build a cutting-edge missile defense shield to protect our homeland from the threat of foreign missile attack. This design for the Golden Dome will integrate with our existing defense capabilities and should be fully operational before the end of my term.
So, do we need a Golden Dome? 800-288-9227. The real question is, do we need to pay? Is it worth 175 billion of your tax dollars for this Golden Dome? Because if we get to have the Golden Dome for free, I would take it right now. I would say, okay, sure, that sounds good. Golden Dome it is. If it was $100, I would take it. 100,000, yeah. 100 a million, yes. 100 million, well, wait a second. I don't know. Do we really need it? A billion, we need to have a talk. And so we're way past the we need to have a talk phase. It's $175 billion. And I am not like saying something that's antithetical to the base of the conservatives out there. You know, the average WBAP listener, we're all pro-defense and we aren't scared of military spending. But I'm going to try and make Ronald Reagan give you a better case than I just did.
This woman said that you go to the polls and you ask the people, do they want some social service, some program the government can give? And the people in the polls are apt to read and say, hey, that sounds good, yeah. But she says that isn't exactly accurate. She says put a $100 bill in each person's hand and then show them the program and say, now, isn't that a nice program? Do you want it? Give me the $100. And she says, see what the poll says then, and how many people hang on to the $100 instead of the program.
So let's do that. So this is going to be paid for by the taxpayers. There's about 340 million of us in America. About half of us don't pay any in taxes. So really about what? Let's go ahead and make it a round number, 170-something million taxpayers. And if this is a $175 billion project, this is more than $1,000 out of your backside. Would you have $1,000 drafted out of your bank account right now in exchange for this Golden Dome missile program? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you're going to hear from Dr. Bro Durer from Rigaku. He's an expert in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear. He's a consultant in all of these defense areas. And he's going to try and answer some of the questions I gave you. Do we need to spend $175 billion for a new missile defense system right now? I say no. What do you think? I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Do we need to spend $175 billion for the new Golden Dome missile defense system? Well, Trump seems to think so. Lockheed Martin definitely thinks so. I'm skeptical. 800-288-9227. But let's ask someone who knows a lot more about this stuff than I do. Dr. Jeff Brodeur from Rigaku back on the show. He is an expert in chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, all that good stuff. And he probably has a good answer to the question I was asking in the first segment. I know you didn't get to hear it, Dr. Jeff, but without the Golden Dome, what does our missile defense system look like now?
Hey, sir, thanks again for having me on again. We have limitations. We have blind spots, and we don't have persistent surveillance. The Chinese demonstrated that when they circumnavigated a hot air balloon through the southern hemisphere. Most of us knew that was a vulnerability because their projected threat was coming through the northern hemisphere, and they went through completely undetected. The challenge that we have right now is that we have too many blind spots in our systems, the sensors, the shooters, and our sensors and shooters are sort of a quilt of different capabilities. They're not networked in the traditional sense. In other words, if I've got a sensor in Alaska, it's not gonna sense or warn me that a missile launch in North Korea has happened halfway across the world until that vehicle reaches the level of the curvature of the Earth, because our sensors are basically line of sight. And so by then, the missile is already en route. If you're on the east coast of the United States, you're in a good position because that missile will have to travel across the United States to hit the target, which gives us more time and more opportunity to interdict that. In my world, almost all of those vehicles are nuclear weapons capable. So it would be unlikely for a foe or a nefarious actor to launch something that expensive just to have a conventional explosive on the end of it. And don't forget, we're challenged nowadays with both legacy projectiles, missile systems, and the next generation. The Russians demonstrated in Ukraine that they have a supersonic missile capability. So we've got to account for everything that was manufactured in 1956 and 2025. And right now, we're not prepared to do that. We don't have the coverage. I think it's important for your listeners and everybody to understand that while we may feel comfortable in the continental United States, the governor of Hawaii is not so comfortable. That's still part of the United States. And all the missiles launched from North Korea, they can certainly touch Guam, and they're getting pretty close if they haven't already to reach in Hawaii. I would tell you that the definition of a threat is having both the capability and the intent to do damage. We know nation states have the capability. Managing their intent is pretty difficult to do.
So let's talk about the cost. $175 billion. Does that sound a little high to you?
It depends on whether or not you want to be safe. It is for me. I don't want a missile landing in my house or my backyard or in my neighborhood. And I will tell you that the network of systems and sensors is going to overlap into different mission sets. What do I mean by that? Long ago will be the days when somebody from South America can launch an aircraft carrying illicit cargo or people, low level, avoiding the radar, and come through the southern coast. We'll have persistent surveillance of all of that. The other thing it's going to do, it's going to generate jobs and employment in the United States from across a number of industries, not necessarily not only the sensors and the shooters, but all the hardware that is associated with that, right? We need AI to do part of that. So the chips, and the beautiful constraint about this package in my mind is everything has to be manufactured in the United States, which is a huge leap in how we do material acquisition in Department of Defense right now. We do have parts and pieces that are manufactured by other countries that we have to quality control before we put that on a jet aircraft.
All right, we're talking with Dr. Jeffrey Brodeur from Rigaku Analytical Devices. What do our allies think about it, and what do our adversaries think about it?
Well, our adversaries absolutely hate it because it takes away a number of weapon systems that were once upon a time viable to hit the United States, and they don't have to launch it. They just have to threaten to do it in the name of diplomacy and to try to influence our decisions. Allies are going to absolutely love it. I think this, depending how this thing plays out, it might overlap or replace in some places the need for the nuclear umbrella. So if our allies or friends of the United States decide that they want to cooperate with us, but a principle of that is to be covered by the Golden Dome, we can do that as well and protect them from providing them some missile defense.
So this sounds a lot like the Iron Dome that Israel has. How do they compare?
Yeah, so that's our system, and the Iron Dome system is limited. It looks at specific threats, in other words, missile type 1, 2, or 3, and it's constrained by time, our space. I mean, it only goes so far out. The Israeli Iron Dome version, I would say, is version 1.0. President Trump is talking about leaping to version 4.0 for us. But what the Israelis have is suffice and sufficient for what threat they face.
Well, Dr. Jeffrey, you are a great person to talk to on a day like today. I appreciate you sharing your expertise.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
All right, Dr. Jeff Brodeur from Rigaku Analytical Devices. Your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. You may want to get your calls in. There's only 2 lines open. So you'll hear from some of your neighbors on what they think about the Golden Dome. Coming up next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Trump has proposed a new missile defense system called the Golden Dome, which sounds great if it was free, but if it's $175 billion, I have some questions about it. I don't think we should spend $175 billion on this Golden Dome on top of the $1 trillion defense budget that's already there. If it does cost that much, and it is absolutely necessary for the defense of all good Americans, then how about it comes out of the existing budget? Maybe y'all have to cut one of your 600 overseas military installations somewhere on planet Earth. You can start right there. But no, until we balance the budget, I'm just against all new spending projects and programs. And it's not that I don't think we need a Golden Dome. It's just $175 billion. No, I think a far greater effect on you as an ordinary American would be balancing that budget so we don't have 3% inflation. Or, it's down to 2.3% now, which is still too high. I mean, you're getting a 3% pay cut this year. Does that make you feel better? Wouldn't it improve your lot in life if you had a 0% pay cut every year? More so than a Golden Dome? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. David Canton, you're on WBAP. What do you think about the Golden Dome, sir?
Hey, James, I would fund it absolutely. I understand that our systems are a bit outdated technologically, and with the new hypersonic and able to steer around to evade systems, it's coming on faster. With AI, it's going to be accelerated even more. So I think we actually need to invest in something newer, just like Air Force One being so old. Our systems are old.
Let's not use the term invest. Let's go ahead and say spend the money.
Okay, spend the money.
Okay. What would be too...
My wife and my daughters and my kids live here. Yeah, defend it.
Okay. What would be too expensive for you?
Well, I say somewhere between take it out of the existing budget, because we have a lot of futuristic things coming up, like the new F-47. You know what I mean? That's going to be expensive. But there is no cost you can compare with defense of your family.
Yeah, but
I have guns,
okay.
I will defend my family to the end.
So what if it was $10 trillion? You would still want the Golden Dome?
If it would save the life of Americans, like on citywide global scale, yes.
Okay, but that's not the option. The option is spend $10 trillion on the Golden Dome, and with the likelihood that maybe it could save a city. Right now we have missile defense. If our cities are just wide open right now, then what are we spending $1 trillion a year on right now?
Have you looked up and seen the age of our defense now?
Yeah, that frequently comes up in these discussions. But listen, what this echoes for me was the SDI that Reagan proposed. He wanted to spend untold billions and billions of dollars, and that was the 1980s money. It never happened. And there were a lot of people saying the same thing that you're saying now. Well, we need to be safe against these missiles from other countries. Do you know how old our systems are? Do you know how vulnerable we are? We have to do this because technology moves forward, and no cost is too much for the safety of the American people. We didn't pass it. No cities blew up. So it was a waste of money, or it would have been a waste of money that all these people were claiming was so vital to our national defense. It turned out to be not vital at all.
Well, back in the day, so was investing in nuclear weapons, and that never happened. We never had global nuclear war. But the deterrent is there. And just like what you've seen in Israel, Iran launched 300 missiles in one evening. They literally carpet bombed the trajectory of those missiles would have carpet bombed the entire state of Israel, or country of Israel.
Yeah.
If somebody was to launch that kind of attack on America, we could not defend it.
I think we could.
Not with the assistance.
I think we could. And who would do it? There's still mutually assured destruction. Who would do it?
Have you looked at the amount of our interceptors that we have? Our ICBM interceptors, we're limited like 30, 50 at a site.
Oh, David, I have no idea how many ICBM interceptors. I can't pretend to know that level of detail. But it's a good discussion. Let me talk to some other people here, David. You made some great points. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks, James.
All right. Let's go to Tim in Grand Prairie. You're on WBAP. What do you think about the Golden Dome, sir?
Hey, James, I have to agree with the other caller. I would do anything for my family. And, a long time ago, they wanted to do the Star Wars system.
Yeah.
And we shot that down and didn't do it. And we needed that a long time ago.
Oh, did we? Because what negative
Yeah.
consequences have been visited upon us in the last 40 years because we didn't have that system?
Well, you can think of a lot of negative.
None. No cities got no.
9/11. 9/11 was one of them. We could have possibly shot down those planes before they even came into our airspace. That's one of them. But then at the same time, we could have paid for this missile defense system back then. It'd been a heck of a lot cheaper than it will be now.
Are you kidding?
And
We'd be replacing it again right now. They'd be like, "Listen, Star Wars is now 40 years old. We've got to spend 170." There's always going to be an excuse.
They'd be able to integrate it. They'd be able to integrate it, and it wouldn't cost as much as to the taxpayers now as what it would have been back then. You can sit there and upgrade systems left and right, and it doesn't cost as much if you upgrade a system as if you were to build it brand new today.
Okay, so is there an upper limit? What if the Golden Dome was $10 trillion? Would you still support it?
When it comes down to a supersonic missile coming into Dallas,
just say yes,
and blowing up
just say yes,
and thousands of people.
Just say yes. You have okay. You have no limit on what someone can get out of you if they tell you it's for the defense of your family. You just turn your brain off, open your wallet, and say, "Come rape the taxpayers as hard as you want. I'm scared." Because that's what it sounds like.
It's not about being scared. It's not.
It
is.
This
is. There's a difference between being scared and naive. And the question here is, do you want to be naive and take thousands of people's lives, possibly your children's or your grandchildren's or so on down the line in the future when you can pay for it now?
Okay, let me try this.
For the future.
I get what you're saying. Let me try this. If you're thinking about your children and grandchildren, you're going to grind this economy to a halt and leave them poorer than you were if we spend $10 trillion a year on missile defense. That's like a third of our gross domestic product.
No, sir.
And listen, the converse of this is if we leave the trillions and trillions of dollars back in the economy, it will grow and they will continue to be wealthier in successive generations. Do you want your kids more likely to live in a trailer house or a 4,000 square foot mansion in 30 years, sir?
The mansion doesn't matter to me so much. I'd rather them to live comfortably. But the fact is, we can't be naive onto this because China is building their defenses and so on down the line.
I'm not saying be naive, but not wanting to. Again, how is this different than SDI in the 80s? How is this different? Spending a ton of money that could have grown our economy on something that we obviously didn't need because we didn't get hit by a missile. Your airplane example doesn't work. You don't have one missile strike on America since we didn't do SDI.
Okay. Because we didn't do it, though, now we have to spend more money in order to do it because prices of the technology have gone up.
That's the opposite of logic. That's the opposite of logic. That's like if I had a missile defense system. No one shot a missile at us. Well, now we really need a missile defense system. Now that no one's shooting missiles at us, and in fact, for the entire history of missiles, we haven't had one missile shot at America, and we need to spend 107. And there's no limit to what you're willing to spend. Like, you can maybe talk to me and say, 200 billion is my cutoff, or 500 billion is my cutoff. But you people that just say limitless, no matter what the cost is, whatever program the defense contractors come up with, they can go rape the taxpayers for it because my family. That's not a logical argument. My family. Not after we already had SDI. Oh, I'm way over time here. 800-288-9227. And I appreciate all you people who disagree. Does everyone disagree with me on this one? Garrett, does everyone on hold disagree with me? Because I want to keep doing this if they do. Yeah, pretty much. All right, well, let's find out the hard way coming up next on The James Show. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And then after these great callers that are on hold right now, we'll talk to Whit Reynolds from Electric Man. And why is Texas second on the list of states with the most summer power outages? Aren't we like the energy state? Whit Reynolds from Electric Man will explain. I really don't think we're that bad. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. If you're just joining in us, I think I stepped in it here because everybody disagrees with me on this one. How dare you disagree with something the president proposes? And I'm not disagreeing with the idea or even the program of the new missile defense system, the Golden Dome itself. I know it's like the battle scene from Braveheart on hold right now. Does everyone disagree with me? I think so far everyone has. I just don't like the price. Look, if it was free, fine. Or if it was coming out of the existing budget, that's fine. But if you want to add $175 billion on top of the $1 trillion he's already proposing for defense, no, that's too much. That's too much. We can do better than that. 800-288-922. Oh, don't even bother calling. The lines are full because everybody hates me today. I love it when this happens. Terry in Oklahoma, you're on the James Show. What do you think about the Golden Dome?
Hey, James, got a couple of points. The first one is you keep talking about $175 billion like it's going to be $175 billion out of your pocket today. This expenditure is over 10 years, so that's $82 out of your pocket every year, or 22 cents a day, or something like that. So I'm not sure whether I'm for this or against it because I don't know enough about its potential effectiveness.
Well, okay, hang on. I think
about how we do it.
Okay. Yeah. You know, you're bringing a good point, but I think that's going to work against the project because right now they say it'll cost $175 billion. Donald Trump says, no, it'll only cost $125 billion. I'm doing something different. But the first appropriation they're asking from Congress is $25 billion. So it's not going to be $17 billion a year for 10 years. Right now, it's going to start out at $125 billion. But also, there is the pattern that a lot of people have noticed whenever you have these defense programs that the costs balloon and they double and triple and quadruple. And the stealth fighter jet that started out being a $600 million project is now a $34 billion project or got over $1 trillion. You know how the cost overruns are pretty much infinite. So I think the $175 billion is kind of a low number to use.
You may quite be right. The government doesn't do very much efficiently. And I never saw a government program come in on budget. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it'll go up from there. But I just wanted to make it clear that it wasn't going to be all in the first year. And on the other thing I wanted to say was about the whole Star Wars thing.
Yes.
Back when, in the 80s, I mean, I'm old enough to remember, but back in the 80s, all the experts were telling Reagan that the Star Wars program he was suggesting was really impossible, and technologically at the time it was. It wasn't really about that. What it was about was getting the Russians scared enough to spend themselves into oblivion, and that worked.
Right, and so we need to learn the lesson from history. Let's not spin ourselves into oblivion chasing defense projects at the expense of our economy.
Well, I agree, and I agree with that, but Star Wars was expensive, but we could afford it at the time. Russia trying to keep up.
I know, but the lesson is to do what we did in the 80s and turn down the big spending project, not to do what Russia did, embrace defense spending and collapse your economy and break up the Soviet Union. I think, I don't know, does not everyone else see that? Steve Weatherford, you're on WBAP. What do you think about the Golden Dome?
Well, you bring up two very good points I like. I want to talk about 5 points, two of them that I like about you. One, let's spend the money, and yes, it's going to be $500 billion to $1 trillion when it's done. But Washington said peace through strength, which is golden for all times. But if we can get this Gold Dome in place and neutralize the ability of foreign adversaries to hit the U.S. with ICBMs with nukes on it, I am all in for that one. Now, we're seeing the first 2 years of Ronald Reagan's presidency replayed with this second term of Trump. So we start building the dome. It's an arms race, trying to keep up. Their economy implodes like happened to the Soviet Union. That's all well and good. I don't really want to see the Chinese economy implode. But, boy, I tell you what, once we start building this thing, guess who's going to want to negotiate downsizing of nuclear weapons? Russia and China, just like we saw under Reagan and Gorbachev, and that's good. I mean, I say let's get this thing going, and and see, one, we're going to end up with a protective system, and two, we may not have to spend that much money to get them to back off building more and more nuclear weapons that could hit us.
All right, hey,
back to your point.
Hang on, I'm way over time. You want to continue this in about 6 minutes? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, homeowners, James Parker here for BlueRibbonDFW.com. Blue Ribbon Roofing's coming out to my house on Friday. Why? I need a roof inspection. I have a board that looks a little suspect at one of my gables, and I'm friends with John Hopkins, and I asked him about it. He's like, no, that's exactly the kind of things we do. Because they don't just do roofs. They do other kinds of carpentry and the work on your house, or if you need a deck or something to that effect. But I'm about to do what I tell you to do on a regular basis. I got on BlueRibbonDFW.com. I called John, Tish, and Trevor, the family who runs Blue Ribbon Roofing. I scheduled my free home inspection. And all it's going to take is about an hour or so of my time on Friday. If they don't find anything wrong that needs to be repaired, then I have a baseline set for if I do have future roof issues. We have some leverage against the insurance during the claims process. If we do find something wrong, I'll get on top of it before it balloons into something bigger, and we'll talk about some fixes for it. And also, if I do need a whole new roof, I'm going to tell them I heard it on the James Show, and I'm going to get a free ridge ventilation upgrade. So go check it out. I'll tell you about my experience after it happens on Friday. And in the meantime, you can go read some of the 5-star reviews from Google on BlueRibbonDFW.com. That's BlueRibbonDFW.com. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Yeah, we're in the middle of a barn burner here. Everybody disagrees with James today. Well, everyone that's calling, at least. Donald Trump's proposed a Golden Dome. I've seen a lot of reporting saying it's going to be $175 billion. He said in a statement earlier today, $125 billion. It's been your experience, though, that you can pretty much double that first number, and that'll probably be what happens in real life. But do we absolutely need it? I doubt it. We're living just fine without it. We heard about Reagan's SDI that never got passed, and it's a lot of the same arguments that I remember and you remember hearing in the 80s are being rehashed again here a generation later. I remember. We were told the exact same things. No amount of money is too much money to keep my family safe. Well, it was too much money. Every cent of it would have been too much money. Your family was safe. No missile attacks on America. And we didn't spend any of that money. So they were wrong. They were wrong when they told you in the 80s that we absolutely needed to spend infinity amount of money because our technology is behind. You don't know how old our system is. We have all kinds of holes, and there's a big, scary, the Russians out there. Well, the Russians weren't big and scary. They were just a few months away from collapsing, and we still hadn't had any missiles hit us. So no, until we balance the budget, the military is going to have to get by on the $1 trillion a year it gets. If that's not enough, figure it out. Then it's not, if it's so important, if it's the matter of life and death, then that should be the first $175 billion spent out of the $1 trillion Pentagon budget, shouldn't it? Is there no limit to how much, how fast some of you people will jettison your fiscally conservative principles for defense? 800-288-9227. This is Steve in Weatherford. You're on WBAP. Let me guess, you disagree.
Yes, but I do want to compliment you on hitting the nail on the head, which is this. You can build the Golden Dome and all of its good attributes, but you have to fund it with waste, fraud, abuse, and pork cuts annually until you get the thing built.
So by not spending another dime more out of the defense budget, I would be on board with that. And in fact, some of you people who've been listening to the show for a long time, you actually know how to manipulate me and win arguments with me. Robert over here won me over too, just like you did, Steve. He said, would you rather have high-speed rail in Texas from Dallas to Houston or the Golden Dome for $175 billion? I said, oh my God, give me the Golden Dome in a second. Oh, please, anything but high-speed rail, just anything. So, yeah.
Keep in mind, we have 11 aircraft carriers and 14 nuclear tipped.
No one's beating us up in a fight. We're not in grave danger. Who's going to take us out? Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Why is no one bothering America? Because we can dictate the end to any fight anybody starts with our Ohio-class submarines. End of discussion. We dictate how that fight ends.
Agreed. I'm not scared of any of these fools. Thank you very much, Stephen Weatherford. Good call. And very nice way to disagree with me without with making me like you by the end of it. David in Fort Worth, you're next up on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think, David?
Oh, man. I'm not worried about fools. I'm talking about the martyrs. If Iran gets a nuclear weapon, I want a chance to shoot it down. I mean, what chance we have now?
We shot down everything Iran launched at Israel. They launched 200 drones, missiles, rockets, projectiles of some sort at Israel. What was that, last April? And we just shot them all down.
You're right. How many of those were ballistic missiles?
I don't know.
Yeah, and that and the hyper. I'm just going, if there's an idiot that has his thumb on the button that can launch a missile that has a nuclear warhead onto America's soil, I would like to have a chance to shoot it down. I don't need 100%.
Agreed.
And the money that we put at least we get the taps open, but we are very conservative. We will try to control it, but if the faucet's closed and it's difficult to open in emergency, we're not going to be able to do anything.
Well, let me go a little bit further than that then. Like, not only am I not scared of a nuclear missile being shot at us from Iran, I think we would knock it down. I think even worse than Iran, as far as their zealotry and sort of Muslim fundamentalism, would be Pakistan. Pakistan has more terrorists in it than Iran does.
Good point. Good point. They'll lie to us, too.
Well, also, they've had nuclear weapons for decades, and we haven't had to worry about that. Why? Because in the end, that wouldn't work out too well for them. Even if they could deliver it, that it's a assured destruction. It's a war that they're going to lose. So we have the deterrent to stop these people. I don't think we should bend over backwards and try and keep Iran from getting the nuke forever. At some point, we have to accept the fact that that is going to be common knowledge in 50 to 100 years, and anyone who wants nuclear weapons is going to have them. You can't keep knowledge bottled up like a genie in a lamp. It's out, and it's only a matter of time. So we need to sort of adjust the world accordingly. And judging by how Pakistan has behaved since they've gotten nuclear capabilities, it's not that scary.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think about the money we spent to get to the moon, and that money, it came back to us through other things. I'm just going. I know that throwing money at this might be throwing it down a black hole, but I also know that from history that we got more money or more technology from the space race. I mean,
well, that's debatable.
I don't mind the race.
We would have had Velcro anyway. So what do we really end up with? Tang? Well, okay, Tang's pretty good too. All right. Good call there, David in Fort Worth. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Anyone else want to disagree with me? Y'all are very polite about it. Isn't that nice? We can disagree and no one gets called Nazi or racist or hateful names. Thank you for being very grown up about this. I'm James Parker. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I'm your host, James Parker. Summer is almost upon us, which means your electric bill is going to go up for a few months. And we're getting the scare stories about how will the electric grid hold up? I think it will, but then I see articles like this that say Texas ranks second in major summer power outages. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound very good. My next guest maybe help explain this to us. Whit Reynolds, General Manager of Electric Man here in Dallas. Welcome to the James Show. And really, we're that bad when it comes to power outages?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Whit. Does that sound right to you? We're second on the list of states with summer power outages?
I don't think that's correct. If we look back at the big scheme of things, I mean, in this article you read, how much of it was broke down into storm related? How much of it was broke down into demand and usage?
Right, because there's a few things that could explain this. How they're measuring it. Is it the most outages per person? Because we have the second highest population. So if we have the same amount of power outages, the number of people affected would be artificially inflated. Another way to look at it is it because we have a sucky electric grid, or because we keep getting hit with hurricanes and floods and high winds and tornadoes?
No, certainly. Yeah, you're certainly right there. My professional opinion, I think our grid is okay.
Yeah, and so what do you think about us having our own separate grid? I mean, I don't really have a sense of pride over us having an electric grid that stands alone, but it does seem kind of like a good idea to have the grid decentralized somewhat.
I never thought about it.
All right. Well, as an electrician here, you have to go to other states every once in a while and see what their grid is like. How does it compare?
Man, this is more along the lines of a question for old linemen, guys that work for Encore, things like that. It's probably a question that's more along the lines for.
Well, what's your theory on why Michigan is the one state that has more outages than us? Well,
we're on a conservative talk show, so probably the piss poor leadership that they have.
I don't think that necessarily affects the quality of electricity, but maybe so. All right, I appreciate your time. This is Whit Reynolds from Electric Man here in Dallas. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks.
All right, we have some strange news for our next story. I heard this when it happened on Monday, and I thought I'm going to click through whenever they figure this out and read what really happened. And this is not what I expected. A 14-year-old girl in Arlington was arrested for an incident on a school bus. And I thought, okay, well, were they fighting? No, she threw contents of a water bottle, but there wasn't just water in there. According to the report, it had water, sand, mustard, and bleach. What the heck? We had a 14-year-old girl did a bleach attack on a school bus in Arlington? That doesn't sound right. Well, that gets worse than that. We had a handful of kids actually have to go to the hospital to get their eyes properly washed out because the bleach hit it. What is going on? Have you ever heard of a bleach attack in your entire life? Besides the Jussie Smollett thing, because that didn't even really happen. In fact, that was one of the jokes about Jussie Smollett, is he claimed that someone threw bleach on him. And I knew it wasn't true because no one's ever thrown bleach on someone in a fit of rage in my entire life. You've never read that in a news story either. But I'll be damned. It happened, or it sounds like it happened. And now we have another layer on top of that. She got arrested. She going to be charged with a crime? Should we send a 14-year-old girl to jail because she threw bleach on some fellow students? I think so. I'll try and make my case next, but I'm tired of people just disagreeing with me. We're not going to do that the whole show. But what do you think? This girl on the Arlington school bus threw bleach on people, intentionally trying to hurt them. Should she go to jail? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. That's going to be our next topic. And also, I got to mention the next James Show meetup. We're announcing that now. It's going to be May 27th at Manny G's in Keller. Got it? If you need to hear it again, I'll say it 1,000 times, or you can send me an email. I'll be making a Facebook event and sharing it out but it's the first time I'm announcing it on the air. Manny G's in Keller, May 27th. That's a Tuesday, 7 p.m.-ish. Just depends on the traffic getting me from here to over there. All right, this girl on the Arlington school bus arrested for a bleach assault. Should she go to jail? 800-288-9227. That's next on The James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Welcome to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Here's your weird story of the day. Moms, are you paying attention to this one? You feel safe with your kids on the bus? They may get attacked with bleach. WFAA has the report.
And back to that breaking news, we're following 5 Arlington high school students sickened by a substance. We just got an update from Arlington police who tell us the incident happened on a bus. They say a student threw a water bottle containing a substance that tests revealed included bleach. That 14-year-old student will be charged with aggravated assault. Several students were taken to a hospital for eye irritation.
What the heck is that? We got to worry about bleach now? The school bus? A little more detail here in the article on WFAA. Arlington police said in a statement, originally the student had advised the concoction was water, mustard, and sand. After further investigation and testing, the substance was revealed to contain bleach as well. So I'm trying to figure out what was in this bottle. Was it water, mustard, sand, and bleach? Or was it just bleach and she lied about the mustard and sand? I don't know. This is weird. But the question is, she's 14. She sent 5 kids to the hospital. Do you send a 14-year-old to jail for that? They go to regular old juvie hall? What should happen to her? 800-288-9227. This is a bridge none of us have crossed before because you've never seen a bleach attack in America in your entire life. Cindy in Princeton, what should happen with this girl?
Texas, we have a problem. We have a problem with our children that think that their actions have no consequences. That has to stop. We have got to make sure that everybody, not just children, but adults as well, know that their thoughts and their actions are going to have consequences, period. Yes, this child should be sent to juvie. She should be dealt with. We have to have a whole lot more accountability for our children. Texas has given us, as a school district, the responsibility to handle discipline, but they blindfolded us and tied our hands behind our back.
You say us. You work at a school, huh?
I'm part of a school district, yes.
All right. So tell me what I don't know. What do I need to know? You can't kick this girl out of school, I'm guessing?
You can't kick anybody out of school. The law has taken care of that. We have children that
Is that true? How do kids get sent to alternative school and no one gets expelled anymore?
Well, if you get expelled, the district has to pay thousands of dollars to put you in a special school for children that have discipline issues, and we don't get paid back for it by the state legislature. It's just handed to us as a gift that we get to pay for. But no, we're not allowed to get rid of any child, and
That's
I don't
terrible.
think we should get rid of any child. I think we should be able to have people, counselors, and other people that know how to deal with these people instead of just regular teachers having to deal with issues that are way above their pay grade. They're not able to teach in the classroom because they're having to discipline kids that have discipline issues way, way more difficult than they should have.
Well, right. This is the one part where me and teachers are singing from the same sheet of music. The real problem that we have in most schools that have problems is behavioral. It's not that we don't have the right curriculum or we should be teaching Common Core math or and throwing more money at it is not going to solve it. I think it would start with we need to be able to kick kids out of school, and well, you gotta give them an alternative. Yeah, their alternative's now the private sector, where there's not going to be any more taxpayer dollars going to someone who has demonstrated they're not worthy of the taxpayer dollars. And number one, what's kids' incentive to behave knowing that they could never get kicked out of school? You know, there's a first incentive right there. There's an incentive for the parents. Hey, if you're going to have to come out of pocket for this, you're going to have to pay for it. Don't you think they might do a little better job? But whenever you come across a monster like this, and I say monster because I know this is a minor who doesn't have their full judgment part of their brain developed and whatnot, but to be able to be capable of pouring bleach in someone's eyes, there's a reason we don't see that a whole lot. It's because a non-sociopathic human being or non-abused animal wouldn't be able to do that. All right, I think I just talked her to death. Let's go to Richard in Denton. You're next up on WBAP. What do you think, Richard?
Well, I'm still alive.
Okay, good. What happened to this 14-year-old girl that threw bleach on some of her student friends?
If she had bleach in sand and she threw it, she knew exactly what she was doing. And I think she should be tried as an adult. without any punishment, you will never get a change in behavior.
Well, serious punishment, significant punishment, but already we have someone with, if you have bleach in a bottle, is there anything other than using it as a weapon that was possible? So if not, then this is clearly like a premeditated act. She's like, well, next time I'm gonna put this bleach in the bottle so if they mess with me, or maybe she knew she was going to do it before she ever even got on the bus, and whether she got messed with or not. There's a level of premeditation here. There's a level of sort of cruel and unusual here with the bleach thing. This girl...
unless she was working on her laundry, she had no other excuse.
Right. She had some pre-existing anti-textile bigotry. Right. Good point there, Richard. I don't think that's the case either. I think she might just be a bad seed. Let's go to Shirley in Royce City. You're on WBAP. What should happen to this 14-year-old student who threw bleach on her classmates?
Absolutely agree. She needs to go to juvie. And what you said earlier, too, about it being premeditated, that was a premeditated act.
We got some bad kids these days, don't we, Shirley?
Yeah, I actually work in a school, so yes, there's a lot going on. And I will tell you, one thing about the students is there's a lot of good kids. Truly there are, but a lot of bad habits. And you got to have a district and an admin that's going to back up and give the appropriate discipline for what's happening. Unfortunately, we don't see that. And I agree with your first caller who was mentioning that expulsion and stuff is difficult. Yes, it's very difficult now.
That is unfortunate. All right, Charlotte and Royce City, I appreciate you calling in. Good stuff. All right, coming up next, I have some great news. Dallas Stars are in the semifinals of the hockey world again. Donovan Lewis, host of The Invasion on the Ticket, is going to tell you it's time to jump on board this bandwagon. I think it's absolutely time to be a bandwagon jumper. It's totally worth the effort because I think this team just might win it all. Donovan Lewis from the Ticket next. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show. I'm James Parker. You're listening to News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Now joining me from the #1 radio station in all of DFW, host of The Invasion on the Ticket, Donovan Lewis, back on the James Show. Welcome back, sir.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Well, pretty good. Not doing as good as the Stars. They're cruising into the semifinals here, the Western Conference Finals. And how do you like their odds so far? I see a lot of good signs here. I haven't watched nearly as much hockey as you have this year, but I jump on the bandwagon in the playoffs. I think they have a chance.
Really good chance. It's a rematch from last year. Edmonton took it in 6 games, but Dallas had a 2-1 lead last year, but before it felt like they just kind of ran out of gas. They're a deeper team. Edmonton's a deeper team, so this should be a fantastic matchup. It probably will go all 7 games, and the good thing you have with Dallas is that they have home ice advantage. They had it last year, couldn't get it done, but I think a lot of people feel that this team is better, deeper, and, man, their goalie's been playing excellent. So as long as you have that good goalie play, you have an opportunity to advance, and it's right there in front of the Stars.
One thing I think that is an upgrade this year is we now have 5 people from Finland, and what a difference 2 of them have made.
Yeah, no doubt. Mikko Rantanen is the guy. Maybe that was the problem last year because they just didn't have that one guy that can take over, that superstar. They were a deep team, but they didn't have a guy. And now they have a guy. They got him from Carolina mid-season, so he has been playing really well in these playoffs. And when you need someone to score, you need to go and find that guy, and he definitely is one. So the guys from Finland, along with Hint and Granlund, those guys have been playing really well.
Yeah, and the Stars parties are bigger than they were last year. And when I say the Stars parties, like out here in the plaza outside of our studio here. So I went to the one on, I think it was Thursday. It was the Game 5 one that they lost. But there were over 1,000 people that had brought lawn chairs, but then the Stars also had like a couple of bars set up and a DJ and a bunch of giveaways and whatnot. And that's even bigger than it was last year. And last year we were in the semifinals already.
The Stars aren't playing, and it's another hockey game that they're showing, and they show outside the arena because you're starting to see now all the arenas having some sort of alleyway or plaza thing like the Stars have. And that's a really cool scene. I haven't been to one of the road games, but I'm pretty sure it's fun, especially, well, you went when the Stars didn't score a goal either, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't as live as it usually is if the Stars are winning and scoring. But it looks like a fun time.
Yeah, we're talking with Donovan Lewis from The Invasion on the Ticket about the Stars here in the playoffs. Getting close to the end here. They only have 2 teams left. If you want to see a quick video, I took 17 seconds of the scene from the party outside of the stadium. Now, tonight they're going to have a party inside the stadium, but it's just a watch party. It's an away game, but it only costs $10 to get in the stadium, and you get to watch it on the screen and stuff. And that's a pretty cool scene.
You talking the Stars game tonight?
Yeah,
it's at the AAC. It's at home.
Am I looking at over here where they're having the watch parties? That's for the away games.
Yeah, usually when they have those watch parties, it's when they're on the road. But yeah, tonight is at the AAC. It's a home game. So if you expect to get into the arena paying $10, I think a lot of people will be very disappointed.
Yeah, well, correct me on that. Does that mean we're not having the party outside because it's a home game and they want you in the building?
I think that's the case. I think they only have those parties on the plaza when they're on the road. But this is definitely a home game tonight.
See, this is why we have a sports expert on to correct me when I get things wrong. Thank you very much, Donovan Lewis.
No, you're fine.
All right. So when we get past the Oilers, I don't mean to get too far ahead here before we've even started this series. But if we get past them, how hard did the finals look?
Oh, my gosh. Carolina and Florida are playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, and Florida on the road won Game 1, and they're the defending Stanley Cup champions. So they've been there and done that. They actually beat Edmonton last year in the Stanley Cup Finals. So they are – either one of those teams would be a really tough challenge to anyone who wins Dallas and Edmonton, but it will be kind of a storybook ending or series if Carolina were to advance and Dallas were to advance, because that's where – Mikko Rantanen came from, and he was traded from. So to see Dallas and Carolina in the Stanley Cup final would be an absolute drama-filled series with Mikko Rantanen, the Stars' best player, going against his former team. And, of course, the Stars had to give up a really good player to get Miko Rantanen, and he's playing in Carolina now. So that would be the juicier one. But either one of those teams, if the Stars advance, will be very difficult to get past.
Are y'all doing anything special on the ticket for the Stars playoff run?
Oh, we actually have the games on the ticket. So, yes, our pregame starts at 6:30 on the ticket. Puck drop at 7, and this is a national broadcast, so you can't see it locally. But if you can try to sync up the audio with the radio and the television, we got the best in the business with Josh Bogorod and Razor Ray calling the games. They are the best. So if you can try to sync it up, listen to the Stars on the ticket, and watch the game on TV, that would be the perfect equation, I believe.
All right, so let's get it right this time. The game is at home, and then game 2 is going to be at home as well. And then they're going to do the watch parties for game 3 and 4.
Game 3 and 4, yeah.
Okay, so y'all come out to the plaza. If you get here about the time the game starts, that's about the time I get out of work, and I'll be walking out of here and say hi. All right, Donovan Lewis.
It's a great team, man. That's great.
It is. And you know what? It's my favorite price. It's absolutely free.
I kind of like that price also.
All right, Donovan Lewis, 1310 the ticket. I appreciate your time. Let me borrow some listeners when you got a chance.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Anytime.
All right. I love that station, and it makes me very happy to say that they beat us in the ratings. I mean, I wish we were in first place, but if anyone's going to beat us, I'm glad it's those guys. How about that? All right. Any Stars fans out there? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. But coming up next, we got to talk about this New Orleans fugitive roundup situation. This is so pathetic. Half the fugitives have been caught from the New Orleans jailbreak. They don't seem to be very smart in their escape process. In fact, I'll show you how dumb they are next on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hello, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Yeah. Let's go. So we had 10 guys that broke out of the jail in New Orleans, and half of them have already been recovered. New Orleans is a special place. It's a special place in some good ways, and it's a special place in some bad ways. I know I lived there for a few years. My wife is from there, so I still have to go back and visit her family every once in a while. And that place is a mess. It's one of the ways that I know I like Dallas. It's one of the reasons I know I like Buck Tussle, because I've lived someplace worse. I've lived in a city. You think Dallas is dysfunctional? Oh, no. No. Come here, boo-boo. Let me go show you real dysfunction. Go look at what is almost a third world country that just kind of got rammed into the bottom of the Mississippi River. It is wild there. Cover the news in New Orleans. What a gift. It'd be like being in Florida. You know, they have weird news there. But the thing I want you to notice about some of these stories is you had 10 guys that got out. Now, let's take, for instance, the last guy that got captured. They just got him in the last few hours. I think they got him overnight last night. He's in trouble for a second-degree murder charge, another attempted second-degree murder, all kinds of other, firing a gun into a crowd and all that crap. And he's a young fella, but he's now been out of jail since Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They caught him Tuesday night. 4 days. You know how far he made it before the marshals caught up with him? He was in the French Quarter. He was downtown. This is so good. And you probably think that's funny. You're like, oh, what an idiot. No, listen to me. I worked there for a long time. That happens so often. It was a running joke that we used to have. These guys who commit a murder or some kind of mass shooting or a carjacking, and there's a manhunt and everyone's looking for them, and you think, well, it's been days. They're probably in Mexico by now. No, they'll catch them in like New Orleans East. And for those of you who aren't familiar with New Orleans, totally understandable. The French Quarter is downtown. The French Quarter has in it a police station. The jail that they escaped from, almost walking distance from the French Quarter. It'd be a good little hike. It's like a mile maybe. But it's just down Broad Street coming out of downtown. Then you have like all the courts and the jail and the big police station there. And so not only did he not go hide out in a foreign country or another state or even another town, this guy is going to the place where you have the most eyeballs possible walking around in the French Quarter. It is the most conspicuous place possible for someone who escaped from the New Orleans jail. And that might make you feel a little bit better because, this guy that's probably going to spend, the next 30 years or whatever in jail when you add up all these charges and whatnot, society's not going to be missing much. This wasn't a kid that was going to cure cancer or develop some new patent for the space station. This guy, not only is he dumb enough and making such horrible decisions at a young age that he's ended up in jail with multiple charges, one of which including murder, he doesn't have the brains to get the hell out of town if he was lucky enough to escape. That is just mind-boggling levels of dumb. But I want you to think about something else, not just in this story. This is going to come up in future stories, and I want you to sort of pin this in the back of your memory banks here, because there's something scary about the human condition that isn't a fault of America or Western civilization. This is something all societies deal with. You take the average intelligence of your society, and then you have to imagine that half the people around here are dumber than that. And so when you look at like what's the bare minimum it takes to be in like the military, like the minimum IQ to be accepted, or below this line, they can't even find a job for you in the military. Generally in the United States, that's around 85. And you're like, well, that's pretty dumb. I know, but this is the military. They can teach you how to gas up a Jeep or just peel potatoes in kitchen duty. But if you're below an 85, you're not fit to do the dumbest, most menial labor in the military. Well, there's a big chunk of our country that is dumber than that. And none of us have ever throughout history been able to figure out, what do you do with these people? What do you do with the people that are so and you're not going to get rid of them. You can raise the average IQ of your country compared to other countries. You can do better and be smarter than previous generations. But on any giant population, there's going to be a bell curve of intelligence. And there's going to be some people that are at the very bottom of that. And these are the people, like some of the explanation you see of why there's always going to be homeless people. It's one of the reasons why Jesus told you will always have poor people. You will always have them among you, no matter what you do. Do not forget these people. Take care of them. But what do we do with people that are this dumb? Well, if they're criminals, you can throw them in jail, and that problem is solved. Now we have another problem. What about the people who are this dumb, but they're not criminals? So, one of the advantages, I should say, terrible word to use, but one of the advantages of him committing some criminal act is that, well, we don't have to worry about him anymore. We don't have to worry about him getting a job and messing it up or hurting other people. He's going to be fed and clothed and have health care. So that problem's taken care of. But what about all the people who are nonviolent, who are non-criminal, but they are really that dumb? They exist. And how do they get along in society? Here's another ugly thing that I can bring to you after observing the human condition and probing down this hole many times. A lot of these people are happier than you. Can you believe that? I spent a lot of time because when I worked in downtown New Orleans, there was a bridge next to our studio, like 2 blocks away, where homeless people, it was a tent city most of the year. And so if it was a slow news day or I wanted something funny, it was real common for me to go down there with my phone and just talk to these people. Most of them were in a good mood. Most of them were pretty happy. Most of them, I think you would enjoy spending time around some of these people. I don't know if it's like, are you happier if you're dumb? Because you've all seen the tormented genius, the guy who's really smart, but he's miserable all the time and can't stop worrying about stuff and never seems to be happy. Meanwhile, you got some skeeter over here with a 78 IQ, just constantly failing, falling face first through all of life's challenges, living under a bridge, dirty, smelly, having to pee in an alley, sleep in a tent, happiest guy in town. Human beings are pretty resilient, and some of them are really dumb. All right, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we have the Vice President of DeWitt & Dunn Financial Services to answer, should you be worried about what happened in the stock market today? There's a little bit of a drop. Also, are the tariffs and trade wars, are they affecting the wallets of Texas citizens? Find out next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Well, the market's had a rough day. Dow was down about 1%, which isn't too scary on its own, but are we headed for further losses, or should we expect more optimism in the future? Paul DeZagan from DeWitt & Dunn Financial Services is my next guest on the James Show. And, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but generally speaking, are you fazed by today's performance in the markets?
Thanks for having me. I think you have to put it in perspective, James. If you look, the S&P had a 6-day winning streak. Off the April lows, the S&P's up 13%. The NASDAQ's up 18%. We're looking for some profit taking. I think it's exactly what you're getting. We had some excuses to get that. So early on this morning, before the market opened, you had Target that reported earnings, and they cut their full year sales. So people started questioning, is the consumer maybe starting to get tapped out? I don't think that's the case. And then so the market sort of accelerated the down move. We had a 20-year auction, and it didn't go very well. And you'll see that when that didn't go well, the market, the S&P really kind of sold off. But I think, like I said, put it in perspective, I think that it's more some profit taking. There's an excuse. And I think that's where we are now, frankly.
Do I need to get in some of these bonds?
Me personally, no. I think I think the market's going to see some continued volatility right now. But I would sort of stay the course, right? So we did have a really big jump off the April lows, and it's natural that you get some backing and filling. And then there's a point where the dip buyers will stay in and jump in and take advantage of some lower prices. But I do expect the volatility for the next, few sessions probably to kind of persist. I would look, I think the 10-year finished right around 4.6% on the yield. If we start challenging sort of those January high yields of about 4.78%, I think that it's maybe a different conversation. But I think for now, like I said, it's just some profit taking. I know it looks scary when you kind of look at your portfolio. You see the indices down this much. It's pretty scary. But I do really think that it's just more profit taking at the time being. And obviously the yields are, as we kind of discussed the big tax bill, I think that players, the yields probably went up a little bit because people think that the deficits are going to be added to, and it's scared some people. But I think that overall we'll see the market sort of like calm after a few days of maybe profit taking.
Paul DeZagan of DeWitt & Dunn, I've noticed that many companies have announced that they're not going to be raising prices because of the tariffs. They just are going to eat them. And so many companies are saying that. I have to believe that they think the tariffs just aren't going to be there in a few months.
Well, I think there's a couple different ways you can look at it. I think that there's a group of people that probably the average person doesn't really understand how tariffs work, right? So tariffs, some people think that, hey, tariffs with China, I'm just using round numbers, are going to be at 100%. My sneakers that I'm buying, they're going to go from 150 to 300. It's not the case, right? So the tariffs are on what we call the declared value, and that's the cost that it costs to fabric for the retailer, right? So if sneakers cost, say, $25 to make in China, plus shipping, you're going to have a declared value. So the tariff will be on that price, not the retail price. So I think there's some misconception there. But are the tariffs going away? We had some pretty good news, and I think that, like most people, I think that China probably has an incentive to find a deal with the U.S. We obviously we import about 440 billion of goods to China, and we export about 140 billion. So it isn't, it's in everyone's interest to find a deal. And so I think the tariffs will eventually work themselves out.
Right. I think a lot of people understand that the whole tariff situation is just a bargaining chip and no one really wants to have them long term. But you can't go to the negotiating table saying, nah, we're just going to try this for a few months. And if we don't get you to budge, we'll lower the tariffs back to what they were. You just can't do that.
No, I agree. So, I think that if you look at the trade imbalances we've had for years, a lot of administrations in the past have sort of kind of kicked the can down the road. And, long term, I think the tariffs are going to cause short-term pain, but I think that they will overall, I think it's going to make the companies in the U.S. healthier. Just my opinion, but I think that, the tariffs are negotiating power to sort of get that trade imbalance back in line where it should be.
Are we being affected by the convulsions with the trade wars and the tariffs that are actually in effect now? Are we being affected much here in Texas?
It's funny. I actually talked to a business owner a couple of days ago and asked him, because he imports quite a bit of stuff from China, and I asked him that question. And he said it kind of depends on who you are and who the importer is, right? So people with high margins are not as impacted as much, right? So he told me he had pretty high margins, and he would be able to actually, if it got really bad, he could move his production to Thailand or Taiwan and use the factories there. So I think it's company to company. So I saw that Walmart the other day during their call, I believe, said that they were going to be raising prices on certain goods. So, obviously Walmart have a lot less margins than some other people. So I think for, the basic products, the low margin stuff, you will see the price hikes. But I think the people that have the higher margin business, there's no impact. Are we seeing any supply chain issues at the moment? As far as I know, we're not. I asked him as well. He said, no, I've had no supply chain issues for the moment. So I don't think we've seen a direct impact. Can that change in the next month or so? Maybe, but so far I haven't seen evidence that the tariffs have directly impacted.
All right, this is Paul DeZagan from DeWitt and Dunn. You can hear the DeWitt and Dunn Financial Hour on the weekends here on WBAP. Thank you very much for your help, sir.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right, good stuff. Okay, coming up next, you're going to love this. Jake Tapper tried to explain himself. Now, he has to do some interviews to promote his new book that's about the Biden decline and the media cover-up. And he actually went on the Megyn Kelly show. Now, Megyn Kelly, not a friendly situation to be in, and she gave him the business. And you're going to hear coming up in the next segment, Jake Tapper, his excuse on how he got all this reporting wrong about Biden's decline. Whoops. That's his excuse. Oh, I just missed it. Oh, you're a terrible reporter. He swears, I'm just ignorant. I have no idea what I'm talking about. You'll hear him next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Bob Lavelle, Home Marketing Services. Welcome back to The James Show. And for people who are spending $2,000 a month in rent, I think you absolutely have to look into buying a house. I think that's sort of the magic cutoff. And it's lower than that. But if you're paying $2,000 a month, you should probably be in a house. Is that a pretty good rule of thumb there, Bob?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, we had a vet that had 5 kids, and he needed a fairly good-sized house, looking for a 5-bedroom. He had been turned down by the VA several times because of his job qualifications that he had considered contract. And but we actually got him his house, his 5-bedroom, and we did it through VA. But the best part is he ended up literally paying about $100 a month less than what he was paying rent for the 5 kids.
That's what happened to me, actually. The first house I bought, my monthly payment went down, and it was mind-blowing because I'm living in a bigger area with a yard and a driveway, and I'm not sharing a duplex with some other goober, and my cost actually went down. Buying a home, upgrading your lifestyle was actually cheaper in some situations. That's the magic of what Bob Lavelle can do for you, but you have to give him a call. He does not know your number yet, or he would call you first. 972-392-9595. Go to 972-392-9595. You can go to the website, blessyourheart.com, or call 972-392-9595. All right, thanks again, Bob. Take good care of him for me.
Thank you, James. You got it.
Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. I'm your host, James Parker, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So Jake Tapper has his book out, and it's making a lot of waves right now, documenting the decline, mentally speaking, of Joe Biden. And we have to delineate now, because now we also know that they were lying about not just his mental health, but also his physical health this entire time. The whole thing was a fraud. But just focusing on the middle part, because this is actually important. Whether or not he has a functioning prostate doesn't really affect his ability to be commander-in-chief of the most powerful military on planet Earth, but not having full control of your brain. When your brain malfunctions, now we have a problem. And Jake Tapper's in a real tough position because he was one of the guys that was lying to you for the last 5 or so years about Joe Biden and his mental condition. He was one of the guys that was in on the cover-up. He saw the same Biden you saw. He just chose not to believe. Or if he did believe, he chose to just blatantly, brazenly lie to your face for years. And now all of a sudden he's going to be the guy that's exposing the truth. How do you thread that needle? Well, he gets credit for not just doing interviews in friendly platforms, but he was on the Megyn Kelly show. She used to be in Fox News. Now she has her own little thing on the side. And she was asked him some hard questions. Let me give you a little taste of his excuse. So, like, excuse me. Weren't you in on the cover-up? Didn't you get it wrong? How do you explain that when the rest of us saw it?
Knowing what I know now, obviously, I feel tremendous humility about my coverage, that Laura Trump interview, for example, et cetera. She saw something that I did not see at the time, 100%. And I own that. I did ask Joe Biden.
See, hang on. I don't buy that. You saw the same thing that she saw. You just didn't either. I can't tell if he's lying, like if he really was duped, or he's lying, continuing to lie. Because if you got it that wrong, like, you wouldn't be ashamed. Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry I got it wrong. You'd be embarrassed is what you would be. You would need to be deferential, too. You would need to say, yeah, Lara Trump got it right. And it's not just Lara Trump. Millions of Americans, me, you saw that. And so, Jake Tapper, it's not believable that you just missed it. It's not believable that you saw all of the same gaffes that we did and you didn't think there was anything wrong at the time. You just chose to lie. The narrative was more important than the truth. Your benefactors and former employers in the Democrat Party were more important than the truth. Defeating Donald Trump was more important than the truth. And Megyn doesn't let him off the hook.
You know as well as I do that there's a way of, you can say, hey, there's this poll on your age, or you could say, you just forgot that Jackie Walorski was dead. You asked where she was moments after watching a videotape tribute to her. You lowered the flags at the White House after she died. This happened 13 days before you sat with him. There is a way of pressing a man like that on the actual infirmities to bring it home to him and to the audience, and you didn't do it.
That's correct. I didn't. And like I said, I feel humility about my coverage. I mean, it's not like I was asking him his favorite movie or his favorite color. We were talking about Putin. We were talking about other issues of national importance. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, of course, I've said I look back at my coverage with humility. And
he feels humiliated because he got caught. He's not upset about what he did. He's not saying what he never at this point does he say he did the wrong thing. His excuse is just, whoops, I missed it. That's not believable. You saw this guy just mumbling around, getting lost in an open field, walking into the woods, tripping upstairs, tripping on stage, falling off a bicycle, misnaming people, president of Mexico, and we defeated Medicare. You saw all this. And even after the debate, I played the audio of you in the post-debate coverage saying, boy, that really was embarrassing for Trump. No, you never admitted that things were untoward until, boom, he lost, and now it benefits you. It's not believable. I don't believe that he just, got it wrong. I think he covered it up. I think he knows he was lying, and I think he's continuing to lie now. Why? It's going to make him a lot of money, for one thing.
The criticism has been that you're complaining about a cover-up about Joe Biden's mental acuity that failed.
Get it, Megyn.
right-wing pundits saw, the right wing in general saw, that independent media saw and reported on.
You saw it too.
And that was no mystery even to left-wing and so-called mainstream reporters who were not fooled, but chose willful blindness instead of honest reporting, and that you were part of it. How do you respond?
It's a tough and fair question. I would say that Alex and I, after Election Day, interviewed more than 200 people, 200 mostly Democratic insiders, and almost all of these interviews were after the election. And they justified to themselves what they had done in terms of misrepresenting how the president was, not just to me and Alex and other reporters, but also just to each other and to the world and to Democrats and to the cabinet, et cetera, by saying that there was this existential threat of Donald Trump and only Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump, and that justified everything in their minds.
No. That's why you lied to us. That's why you told false reports. Not that's why they falsely reported to you. Because whether or not they falsely reported to you, how do you get it wrong? But you could have gone into any trailer park and got some guy with only half of his teeth sucking on a natural light can on his disheveled wooden porch. How does he know better about Biden's mental condition than you? How come he was diagnosing it? You could have pulled over any car driving around in red state America in the last 6 years, and they would have been more likely to get the facts about Joe Biden's mental decline correct than you. It's not believable, sir. You lied. And I'm glad to see that he's humble that he missed it, but I don't believe that. I don't believe this is an act of humility or contrition. This is a guy who's figuring out how does he tether all the lies that he just told for the last 6 years into whatever is going to be his media career going forward. I don't believe for 1 second that he was duped and he just took bad information from Biden staffers. No, that's not believable at all. Your excuse, it's not going to cut it. No one believes you, Jake, or I hope no one believes you. You know what? Probably the people that were dumb enough to believe that Joe Biden was the best person to be president, they might believe him. But the rest of us, we don't believe you any more than we were believing you when you were saying he was fine. Coming up next, you're going to hear why I think this generation could really use another show like Cheers. Norm from Cheers, George Wendt, the actor, passed away. And that is quite literally, I'm not just saying this for effect, my favorite show of all time. And I'll break down how we need more Cheers shows right now for this next generation. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. My favorite show of all time is Cheers. I don't know if that's breaking news. But Cheers is a show that I glommed onto when I was a kid. We only had 3-4 channels when I was growing up. And so you were really just dependent on what was going to be syndicated after The Tonight Show. That's what you had. And when Cheers got syndicated after The Tonight Show, I started watching it. I would stay up late and it would come on. And it was still running new episodes when I started watching the reruns and syndication. And so then the last 4 seasons, I actually started watching it in time. When it started, I was only 6 years old, 7 years old. So I'd missed the beginning here. But you were 5 when it came out? I was 5? It came out in 82? Okay, maybe I was 5 then. Anyway, Cheers ended up being my favorite show. This was a show that I would record it and watch it later so I wouldn't have to stay up every night to watch it. I would I program my VCR. I was a good little techie nerd. But Cheers ended up being a show that sticks with you. Cheers is a show that you still tell the jokes from. Cheers is a show that has such a range here. There's some episodes that make you laugh. There's some episodes that make you cry. There's some episodes that make you really sad. You have to deal with death. You have to deal with birth. You have to deal with the Sam and Rebecca both being career-driven when they were younger, now dealing with the awkward position of they're approaching 40 and they want to have kids, but they don't have anyone to have kids with. You've seen people go through all these scenarios, but here's the real genius of Cheers. And there's a few shows that do this, and it's what makes them so sticky. What Cheers really does with each one of these characters being hyper-specialized, Sam is the alpha male jock hound dog. He's always after women. Norm is the guy that is just in a good mood, chill, fun to be around, likes good beer, doesn't like to move a whole lot or exercise or whatever. He's just your vices. Cliff is your wannabe intellectual smarty pants know-it-all. You are interested in history, but you're not really a historian, are you? Same thing with me. And then Fraser Crane is sort of the intellect trying to be sophisticated in a world that isn't pushing him in that direction. He's still trying to do the right thing and be refined and enjoy the finer things in classical music and fine wine. And what it really is you split up into 5 different pieces. And so part of you is struggling with other parts of you because at some point the jock in you wants to go out and work out, but the Norm in you wants to chill out and have a beer and watch TV. And so you have this sort of internal dialogue that you're watching these characters have in real life. And it kind of resolves a lot of issues in just everyday being a human being that transfers far across sitting in a bar in Boston and what they're actually doing. Seinfeld's the same way. Seinfeld is you split up into 4 different people. Seinfeld, because you have your own quirks, you have your eccentricities, isn't that what's called? You're eccentric. How about that? And so there's Kramer. There's you. That's a smart mouth, common sense guy. What is the deal with that? And there's a little Seinfeld in you. There's a little nerd in you. This sort of short, fat, balding, insecure part of you. That's George. I feel exactly the same way about King of the Hill. King of the Hill, Mike Judge, he's from here. And boy, if King of the Hill isn't me just split up into 4 people, there's the dad, there's the boomhauer, there's the I hate the government Dale, there's the lovable goofball and Bill. That's what you like about these shows is you get to watch your internal dialogue chat with itself. And that's what made it stick. And that's what you like about Norm. Norm was the fun one. No one ever had beef with Norm. No one ever had a problem with Norm. Now, he screwed up in a couple of episodes, Hungry Heifer and whatnot. But Norm was the lovable part. And so, if you want to understand sometimes why certain shows stick with you more than other, I think Cheers is a good archetype. And the bad news is we don't have that right now. What is a similar show that takes the human experience and splits it up into its different specialized parts and helps people sort of digest this whole internal dialogue that we have? We're being pushed in different directions. If someone asks a question, do I want to give the trivia answer like I'm on Jeopardy, like I'm Cliff Clavin? Do I want to give a smart mouth pun and make everyone laugh like I'm Norm? You have to make that decision whenever you're in a conversation or you're in a public setting. And I think I'm going to have to make my kids watch Cheers. They've watched quite a bit of Seinfeld, but I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy to see you split up in different competing factions, because once you can take a puzzle apart and put it back together again, tell me you don't understand it more. And also, Cheers is so sticky because it was just so well written. It was just acted so well. And the amazing part is 95% of the show was in the same room. It was all in that bar. It was almost like a one-act play. They didn't even have to go to different locations. They didn't have special effects. They didn't have you seeing great scenery or skylines or whatever. It was almost all self-contained, which means the magic came just from the dialogue. And that's why I still play a bunch of their clips on the show. He didn't say anything. You'll hear a lot of Cheers on the show. You'll hear a lot of my Cheers references on the show. And George Wendt, I hadn't seen him do much lately, and I didn't know him personally, but it does make me kind of sad knowing that the guy who gave us Norm Peterson's no longer with us. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show. I just wanted to brag on my favorite show of all time, which was Cheers. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. If you're interested in going to the next James Show listener meet and greet, that's going to be May 27th at Manny G's in Keller. I'm not going to give you an address. You're going to ask your phone. This isn't 2004. Our phones know this stuff now. So come on out, say hi. It'll be about 7 o'clock to 9-ish or so. And I would love to meet you. So come on out. Tell someone about the show and check out the podcast whenever you have some free time. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.